Hi, I'm Violet Van Hees, and this is Grow Your Movement Freedom. Welcome. So today we're going to look at eyes. Our eyes are amazing. They've got muscles inside them. They've got muscles all the way around them that help them to move. And how we use our eyes can affect how we see the world and how we feel tension and tightness inside our face, our eyes, our neck, our head. And so let's have a look at this, and I'll give you a tip that you can explore to see if it makes a difference in terms of what you notice about how your eyes work and how you feel when you're using the eyes in different ways. So our human eyes are like a camera. Light comes in, there's a lens in the front, it goes through the lens and gets focused there, and it goes onto a light-sensitive background called the retina. Then all that information, the light that comes in, is sent from the retina into the brain, and it's in the brain that you make sense of what you see. So seeing is that whole process of making sense of everything, and vision is the mechanics of how it comes in and gets sent through there. And it's really interesting that our eyes have lots of muscles around them and can change shape. So inside the eyes, for example, we have muscles that change the shape of the lens that's on the front of the eye. So it can focus differently for us, depending on what we're looking at, close or far. We also have the iris that can open or close, which is like the f-stop in a camera, where you can reduce or change the amount of light that comes into your eye based on how bright it is outside. So those are muscles that are inside the eyeball. Then there's also muscles around the eye that help the eyes to move, right or left, up or down, around in circles, sometimes cross-eyed, those kinds of things. And our eyes also have weight. So they're balls of vitreous fluid that's sitting in there, surrounded by some muscles. And they're sitting in a cavity that's carved inside the skull. If you've looked at skulls, you've seen the sockets that eyes get to sit in there. And so it's interesting to notice what your habit is in terms of looking out at the world. For me, one of my strong habits is that I tend to get very intently focused. So my eyes actually kind of move forward in the socket. My whole head moves forward. My eyes get narrow. Everything gets focused this way. You can see my forebrow gets a little furrowed. Everything gets a little squeezed together, scrunched up out front here. And that's very different from if I stand with eyes very wide and work with peripheral vision out here. A little different. Another thing that I'm playing with is the weight of my eyes in their socket. So what happens if I actually just let the eyes rest inside the socket when I'm standing, when I'm lying in bed at night? What happens if I just let the eyes lie in the socket rather than being held by all the little muscles and those little muscles helping out just in case, just like muscles do elsewhere in our body? It can have a very different feeling. All of this to say, eyes are pretty amazing. And we can learn a lot. We can open up the choices and the options we have for movement in our eyes. And I'm going to be offering a series of 4 eye lessons coming up where we'll look at lots of this stuff and explore lots of this. And what's really interesting is the kind of stuff that can open up once you notice what your habits are with your eyes and what goes on. So I've actually done an interview with Patrick Michael, who's one of the people that came to my eye classes, and asked him, what was interesting about the classes and what difference did it make out in the world?
And it's hard to describe fully because it's a bit airy-fairy, which worked out just great for me. I was really quite surprised. We went through, you recall, we went through an exercise where we lay out on the floor. And from that exercise, just laying on my back, discovered mystically that I had enormous pain in my right shoulder through one of the eye exercises.
Yeah, you were just laying on the ground doing something and suddenly your shoulder was hurting, right?
Yes, yeah. And so the experience with you was that I explained what I had felt from an eye exercise. There's pain in the shoulder, and then we were able to move on to working on that, and great improvement in it.
You also said it improved your golf putt.
Well, for golfers.
See, this is great for all sorts of stuff.
For golfers out there, you want to do this. I have spent most of my life not really looking at the world, and the lessons taught me to actually not just look at one item in front of me, but actually take in what was within my line of sight, so that I began being able to see to my right and my left. But what I found on the golf course was that it was immensely useful, especially taking for putting, is if you start looking down at the putt and you actually are seeing a full 3 to 4 feet, 5 feet to your left and 5 feet to your right, you have a far better sense of what you're doing. So for those struggling with putting, I'd have to highly recommend taking the eye lessons from Violet.
Here's your tip for today. One of the things that's used in connected riding and centered riding for horseback riding is this idea of soft eyes. And it's also used apparently by landscape painters, people who paint landscapes, artists who paint landscapes. And they will use two different ways of looking at the landscape. They'll look in a sort of focused way, and they'll also look with their peripheral vision wide open, because they see differently. They see the light differently, they see the forms differently, things look different. And when I'm riding and I'm using soft eyes, my world is different and my horse behaves differently, interestingly enough. So here's how you do soft eyes. Start out just by sitting. Do something where you're completely safe. Sit in a chair or just stand where you are. And then allow your vision to first be very narrow and focused, like really focus and stare at something like the back of a chair or the flower vase that's there or a book that's on the table or whatever. And then shift this so that you let your eyes go as wide as possible and your vision to go out as wide as possible. And you can even move your hands out at the side and see, okay, where can I see my hands? How far out can I go and still notice where my hands are? And then see what it feels like in your head and in your space and in yourself when you have your eyes wide and soft like that, compared to being narrowed and focused. And then if you feel safe doing it, you might want to stand up and move a few steps. But first get used to the feeling, sitting still. And then get up and maybe move a few steps and notice what's it like to have soft eyes, to have the soft peripheral vision open in your world. And is that different from how you normally look at the world? So check those things out. Let me know what you find out. I'd love to know more. If you'd like to take part in my eye lessons, I'd love to have you there. My contact information is right below here. Get in touch. And meanwhile, have some fun out in the world exploring the difference between seeing with a really focused vision and seeing with soft eyes or a nice wide open peripheral vision going on for you. Notice if it feels different in your body, and notice if you see the world differently. If you make what you make of the world with those two different ways of looking at the world. Let me know what you discover. I'm really curious to know what you make of these things. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.